For those who live in Navy Yard, did you know you can order Walters online for pickup? Visit waltersdc.com, click on menus, and then push the order online button so it's ready when you get there to take back home with you.
Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Right now, get a free select tool when you buy the Craftsman V20 2-pack battery kit. Whether it's the backyard, the bathroom, or beyond, Craftsman has the tools to help you power through and get the project done right. Because DIYing is unpredictable, but your tools shouldn't be. Shop Craftsman at Lowe's today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
So a few fans coming to their feet, saluting Daylen Lile, his family in attendance as Lile digs in for his first Major League plate appearance. There from the left side, the pitch on the way. And a ground ball left side toward the hole. It's by the diving shortstop Adames for a base hit. Lile turns and holds, and like Hassel last night, Lile singles on the first pitch he sees in the major leagues. He fires the 2-2. Swing and a miss, struck him out with a slider running down and in. So Gore with a 1-2-3 frame picks up 2 more strikeouts. He has K'd 9 over 6 shutout innings tonight against San Francisco.
Brzykcy delivers, swinging a broken bat looper into left field, a base hit. In from third to score is Jung-Hoo Lee. To second is Chapman, and the Giants now lead 3-0.
And welcome to Nats Chat along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. We on Friday evening, for a second consecutive evening at Nationals Park, had a well-regarded Nats outfield prospect in his first Major League regular season plate appearance, registering a first pitch single. Pretty remarkable. Robert Hassel III on Thursday evening, Daylen Lile on Friday evening. But we on Friday evening also had the end of the Nats' 5-game winning streak, a 4-0 loss to the San Francisco Giants in Game 1 of a 3-game series. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 23-28. You could find us on X at Nats_chat. You could find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website you could check out too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. Nats starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore on Friday evening was great again. He officially allowed 1 run in 6 innings with 9 strikeouts, but Gore left the game while in the middle of a 2-0 count and facing Matt Chapman in what ended up being a 2-run 7th for the Giants. And Mark, there is no overstating the collective sigh of relief that was exhaled when Nats manager Davey Martinez, during his post-game press conference with you guys, said that Gore left the game due to his left leg tightening up off having been hit by a comebacker earlier in the game.
He got hit with that line drive, and that 6th inning out there, it started tightening up on him a little bit. He just said, hey, you know, I feel like I just don't have any push, any strength in the legs.
This was not an elbow issue. This was not a shoulder issue. This was not anything to be supremely concerned about, it seems. And so there was a collective sigh of relief from just about every Nationals fan paying attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And good for everyone and good for MacKenzie Gore that this isn't anything, doesn't appear to be anything serious, because, man, he's been pitching great this season. And this start was right up there with some of his best of them. So to see him walk off the mound in the middle of an at-bat, and, you know, we're all trying to be detectives and figure out, what is he saying? What did he do? What kind of movement did he make? And, you know, I'm thinking, did I see him kind of shake his arm a little bit? You're worried it could be something more severe. And it turns out, no, it goes all the way back to the line drive from Willy Adames in the 2nd inning.
The wind by Gore in the pitch. Swung on. Line drive knocked down by Gore. Picks it up third base side of the mound and fires a strike to Nathaniel Lowe for the out.
That got him on the leg. And he kept pitching for another 5. And it just kind of finally tightened up enough on him that by the 7th inning, he said he couldn't push off the leg. It almost felt like a dead leg, a Charley Horse.
I guess it's like a Charley Horse or something.
And he showed us a pretty nice sized circular welt on his thigh, right where the ball hit. But he shrugged it off and said it will be fine. It was not fine to continue in the game at that point, but he's convinced that it's not going to prevent him from making another start. And yes, a sigh of relief. It's also, you know, it's frustrating for me as a reporter, and I'm sure fans maybe pick up on this at times, that the Nationals don't give out in-game injury information when somebody departs. They make us wait until after the game. almost every team in baseball that I'm aware of will usually make some kind of announcement, within an inning or so, and just give a general diagnosis of what occurred and then update it after the game. The Nationals for years have refused to do that despite our asking for more help on that. And to me, this was a good example of how it would have helped everyone have peace of mind and not spend, a good 90 minutes speculating that it was something worse than it was. I'm glad it wasn't anything serious in the end, but I feel like we all could have been taken off the ledge a lot sooner if they had just told us, hey, he came out of the game because it took a line drive off his leg.
So I've always found that policy of the Nats to be interesting. And on the one hand, I can kind of understand it from the perspective of if you're trying to figure out what exactly an injury is, then maybe it is best practice to not declare anything until after the game, until you get a firm grasp on what the heck is going on. But in a situation like this, where it's clear what the injury is, right? It's a Charley Horse, okay? And you want to sort of quell fears of it's not his elbow, it's not his shoulder, it's not anything to be that worried about. I don't know what the harm would be to just put out a 2-sentence post on X. The Nationals media relations staff has its own account on X. Just post something very simple. MacKenzie Gore left this evening's game because of, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I don't see what the harm would be in that. I don't see what, competitive advantage would be lost in doing that.
I've been making this argument for more than a decade and to no avail. And I'll tell you, this really is Mike Rizzo's decision that he has been very protective of this. And his explanation has always been to the effect of, what if we say it's one thing and it turns out afterwards it's something else? And okay, I understand that can happen. I think we all know you're not going to have an instant diagnosis, but if nothing else, give us a body part, There's a big difference between leg and elbow or leg and shoulder, things like that. And you can always say, hey, we'll have more information after the game. You can keep it vague, but just a little bit, just to give people an idea of what we're talking about here. But those questions have fallen on deaf ears all these years, and I can't imagine anything's going to change now. Although it seems to me, specifically this case, that it would behoove the organization that they would rather have people not be panicking about what's going on with MacKenzie Gore and know that, okay, it's tough. He had to come out of the game for a legitimate reason, but it doesn't seem like it's something that should be that serious. But that's a fight that, we're going to keep fighting, but I don't expect to win that battle anytime soon.
Well, MacKenzie Gore was good in this game, and we should not lose sight of that. The Nats got shut out, but Gore, again, just terrific. What a season he's having. So like I said, the official final line, 1 run, 6 innings, 9 strikeouts. He gave up just 2 hits, each of which was a single. He officially issued 3 walks, though one was completed with him out of the game. He threw 91 pitches, 54 strikes, just 37 balls. And the run that Gore was charged with came off a leadoff walk of Jung-Hoo Lee in what ended up being a 2-run 7th for the Giants. But Gore was out of the game when that run got scored. So this really was a good outing for Gore. And against a good team, the Giants are one of the better teams in the National League. And Gore just once again coming through. He continues to be number 1 in the majors in strikeouts for this regular season. That strikeout total now is at 93. You talk about strikeouts per 9 innings. Gore number 1 among all qualified pitchers in that category at 13.43. And there has been a consistency with MacKenzie Gore. We talked earlier in the season about an inconsistency. That really has gone away. Like now, start in, start out, this guy is really good. The strikeouts continue to come in. And, what we discussed going into the regular season, MacKenzie Gore, the potential for a step forward season, a true breakout season. I feel like we're seeing that with him, with what he's doing here.
100%. You said he leads the league in strikeouts. He's way ahead of everybody else. He's got 93, and I think next on the list is at 80. At last check. So he's lapping the field in that regard and not giving up runs, as we know. And really this one, what stood out to me, especially compared to the previous start, where yes, he only gave up 2 runs to the Orioles, but he threw 102 pitches in fewer than 4 innings. And that just bizarre outing of his. Well, in this game, he makes it to the 7th inning and is at 91 pitches when he departs. Much more efficient. Was getting quick outs, even though he's still getting the strikeouts. That's a great sign. We always worry with him, well, the pitch count gets driven up because of the strikeouts, because he gives up a lot of foul balls. He showed in this game how you can still be efficient and be a high strikeout guy by keeping it in the strike zone, by finishing off hitters once you get him to 2 strikes. Only, I'm going to say 2 walks issued. I know the third one was charged at him, even though it wasn't really his fault. And I mean, really, until that last inning, nobody made it past first base against him. So just a fantastic job by him against, as you said, a good lineup.
You think about his strikeout total, 93 strikeouts in 11 starts. If he makes just 30 starts, that's 254 strikeouts. I mean, that is ridiculous. The kind of strikeout output that this guy is putting forth here. I feel like there needs to be more appreciation of this. We've talked about the home run pace that James Wood is on, and that's certainly impressive. How about the strikeout pace that MacKenzie Gore is on? I'm talking 30 starts. That may be a conservative number. If he makes 32, 33 starts, you're talking about 270, 280 strikeouts potentially from MacKenzie Gore.
Look, I was just, going to say we're just shy of 1/3 of the way through the season. Game 54 will be the 1/3 mark. So his next start should come in game 56. So that's now the second third of the season. But if he were to keep this up and make every start all along, he's got an outside shot at getting to 300, which is a huge number that only a handful of guys get to, including, by the way, Max Scherzer. So this is shaping up to be an epic season by MacKenzie Gore, and he's probably not getting the attention as much because the ERA has been in the 3s, even though that's still good, but not great. And because, fair or unfair, he's not getting wins. He only has 2 of them because of a lack of run support and things like what happened in this game here tonight. But I know the rest of the league is well aware of what he is doing. And it's been a lot of fun to see him take this next step and really assert himself as the ace of this staff and truly as one of the best pitchers in baseball.
Yeah, Gore, 11 starts, ERA 3.47, whip 125. The Nationals/Expos record for strikeouts in a regular season, Pedro Martinez, 305 in 1997. And then you get a bunch of Max Scherzer campaigns. Scherzer 2018, 300. Scherzer 2016, 284. Scherzer 2015, 276. Scherzer 2017, 268. That's pretty remarkable, by the way, how many times Max appears on that list. But that Gore could be in that company is awesome. Just cannot say enough good things about the season that he's having. You give him a lot of credit. You give the pitching coach, Jim Hickey, a lot of credit. You give the pitching strategist, Sean Doolittle, a lot of credit. This is going really well. This development of MacKenzie Gore, this maturation of MacKenzie Gore, just superb.
And what I like is from the moment he got here, he wanted to be this guy. He's always had the mindset of, I'm a number 1 guy. I'm an ace. Yeah, I have work to do to get there. But I feel like each season along the way, he's kind of taken that next step. Okay, what do I need to do? He had really a stretch a couple years ago where the bad starts were really bad. He managed to kind of brush those off and minimize them last season. Now, he had that one really rough stretch in like July and August where you thought the season was going to fall apart on him. And then he bounced right back and finished super strong from that. And so the idea coming into this year was, let's eliminate those kind of slumps and really keep the bad starts almost to a bare minimum and just try to limit the damage on those nights when it's not going perfectly well. We've absolutely seen that from him. He's had, 3, 4, even 5 great starts. This one would fall into that category, but the other starts have all been good to at worst average. And I think that's the biggest step he's taken. And now if there is another step, I would just say it is more of the dominant starts, maybe getting a little deeper in the game. I mean, he was poised to do that in this one, if not for the leg. I think he's going to be just fine. And he's such a competitive guy. He cares a lot. He wants to be this guy. He embraces the idea of being the number 1 guy in this staff.
So MacKenzie Gore in this 4-0 loss to the Giants at Nationals Park on Friday evening, really good. But the Nats did lose and did get shut out as the feast or famine nature of this 2025 Nats offense does continue. The Nats in this game, no runs, just 5 hits. The 5 hits were 3 doubles and 2 singles. And the Nats did draw 3 walks, but the Nats went 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. The string of games in which the Nats got to the opposing starting pitcher did come to an end. Giant starting pitcher Landon Roupp, 6 scoreless innings. But we, in this game, had another significant Major League regular season debut for the Nats. The Nats on Friday morning put outfielder Jacob Young on the 10-day injured list with what the team labeled a left shoulder AC joint sprain. And the Nats announced having selected the contract of outfielder Daylen Lile from AAA Rochester. The Nats took Lile in the second round of the 2021 MLB draft out of a high school in Kentucky. He is the Nats' number 9 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. He already this season has played for AA-Harrisburg and AAA Rochester, and now for the Nats at the major league level. And remarkably, Daylen Lile on Friday evening did what outfielder Robert Hassell III did on Thursday evening, singled on the first pitch of his first major league regular season plate appearance. Lile in this game was the Nats starting right fielder and number 9 batter. He went 1 for 2 with a single. Bottom of the third, a 1-out first pitch opposite field single through the left side of the infield. That is something. Hassell does this on Thursday evening, and Lile does this on Friday evening. That's crazy.
Well, guess what? Those two had a little conversation before the game. And Hassell said to him, hey, listen, they're going to throw you a fastball. Be ready for it and go for it. You can do what I did. And sure enough, that was Daylen Lile's approach in his very first major league at bat. And he completely duplicated the feats of his former minor league teammate and now major league teammate. So that was great to see. And Lile had a huge smile on his face as he's sharing that story of how that all went down. He is quite the interesting story because this is a highly touted kid who was taken the second round of the 2021 draft, 5 rounds ahead of Jacob Young, by the way. The difference is that Lile was drafted out of high school as opposed to college, and so it was a little longer path to the big leagues. But I've been hearing his name for several years, not just within the organization, but outside. I've heard scouts from other teams rave about him from this whole group of young outfield prospects that the Nationals have. His name has come up as much, if not more, than a lot of who you would think would be even bigger names in terms of rankings and things like that. He had some injuries that sidelined him a bit, started this year at AA and tore it up there, got the promotion to AAA and did even better in 18 games in Rochester. And so it felt like he may not be that far off. Now, I mean, the odds of them needing 2 outfielders in the span of 2 days, pretty slim to think that would happen, but it did happen. He got his shot. He's going to get a chance to play at least here for a couple weeks, if not longer than that. And then we'll see where it all goes from there, because eventually there's going to be some decisions to make involving more than 3 young, promising outfielders that they're going to have at their disposal.
Yeah, so I think there are a few things to process here. Number one, it does turn out that the Nats should have put Jacob Young on the 10-day injured list. They were only able to backdate this to May 20th. Again, this left shoulder AC joint sprain that he suffered last Saturday in the win at the Orioles. Now, I know it's easy to Monday morning quarterback this stuff when you're not in the middle of it. So, sometimes there's nothing you can do about this. So I don't want to hammer the Nats too hard for this, but it does end up being unfortunate that Jacob Young just sort of lingered without being on the 10-day IL for multiple days, and the Nats ended up playing a man short. But you look at this situation now. So Jacob Young on the 10-day IL, Dylan Cruz on the 10-day injured list with a left oblique strain, Robert Hassell III called up, Daylen Lile called up. And you think about where we are right now with the Nats in terms of young, promising outfielders, right? James Wood, Dylan Cruz, Jacob Young, Robert Hassell III, Daylen Lile. You just said it. There are some decisions that are going to have to be made here. And you could even further complicate this by saying, if Seaver King, who some have talked about as maybe being moved to an outfield spot, ends up being moved to outfielder because he's a shortstop, and the Nats happen to have a shortstop in CJ Abrams and also have another well-regarded shortstop prospect in Luke Dickerson, you are talking about an abundance of promising young outfielders for this franchise and sort of a lot to sort through here in terms of who's legit, who isn't, who's a real piece for this team moving forward, who isn't. I mean, I'd say right now, the only guy who's set is James Wood. Like, that he's legit. Everyone else you're trying to figure out. But I think this is going to be a really interesting national storyline for the rest of this season, and more likely than not into next season, figuring out with all of these young, promising outfielders, who's a player for you and who isn't moving forward.
Yeah, it is fascinating. I think right now, you say, even if it wasn't their intention, you now have an opportunity to see Hassell and Lile on a daily basis in the big leagues. Use this opportunity to find out what you have in them. That doesn't mean that their performance over these next, say, 2 weeks makes or breaks their career. But I would say both of them have the opportunity to make a statement and say, don't send me down when somebody else comes off the IL. I'm here to stay. Maybe one, maybe both. It's probably going to be hard to keep them both if everyone comes back healthy. I agree with you that James Wood is clearly in his own class now. I do think Dylan Cruz is in a separate class from the others. And yes, that's based on reputation more than results, sure. But he is a different category, I believe, of prospect than Hassel and Lile and all the others. And while it's been a little erratic here so far, I think the good things we have seen from him do suggest the potential for a very high ceiling with him, not just as a hitter, but as a complete ball player. He's going to have to come back and play well, of course, but I think we've seen enough signs that he, deserves a shot above some others. But what does that mean then? We've got time for it all to sort itself out, but I could envision a scenario down the road here within weeks or a month, whenever that is that somebody comes back, where they could keep 4 legit outfielders on the everyday roster and use the DH to their advantage. And Josh Bell is not DHing every day. And maybe he's splitting time or coming off the bench, whatever that might be. There could be an opportunity to see more than 3 of them at a time if they show that they're worthy of it, if everybody comes back healthy. Get a long way to go between now and then, but that would be one scenario in my head that could play out here.
And to spin this thing even further, you figure out what you have with these guys. Do one of these guys do more than one of these guys become trade chips for Mike Rizzo? And does Rizzo ultimately take a few of these outfielders who the team doesn't see as part of the future and spin those guys off into some sort of significant trade to bolster the starting pitching, to bolster some other area of the team?
I've been thinking for 2 years, as much as we've talked about, are they going to go spend big money on a free agent starting pitcher, that a more likely path for this team, given their financial situation and given the depth that they now have in their farm system, would be to try to create a trade. And the best place to start for that would be from that core of outfielders. And there's a few others further down the chain that have a longer way to go to reach the big leagues that could still have some value. So absolutely, you could use that as the centerpiece of a potential trade for, say, a controllable starting pitcher with a few years at his disposal. We'll see. We're getting ahead of ourselves here, but that is absolutely something I've been thinking in the back of my mind for a couple of years now.
Life as a small business owner, everything is your problem and there aren't enough hours in the day. That's where LinkedIn Jobs and by proxy Nats Chat are here to help. For those crucial hires that you absolutely can't whiff on, turn to LinkedIn Jobs. Simply post your job and LinkedIn will take it from there, making sure it gets in front of the properly qualified candidates who are searching themselves. Find out why more than 2.5 million small business owners have turned to LinkedIn Jobs to grow their staff. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/natschat. That's linkedin.com/natschat to post your jobs for free. linkedin.com/natschat. Terms and conditions apply.
First pitch, low and in the dirt, bounces away from Ruiz, and this will score the run. Scampering home from third is Chapman on a wild pitch on the first pitch thrown by Chafin. So 2 runs home here for the Giants to the top of the 8th. It's now San Francisco 4 and Washington nothing.
So we had this debut of Daylen Lile, and we did not have much else with the Nats offense in this game. Luis Garcia Jr. as the Nats starting second baseman and number 5 batter went 2 for 3 with 2 doubles and a walk. He had a good game, but nobody else did much of anything else. A rare offer for both CJ Abrams and James Wood, the top 2 batters in the Nats lineup, a combined 0 for 8 with no walks in this game. This was just one of these lifeless offensive outings for the Nats on Friday evening.
And it seems like this actually may not have been the best matchup for them. And it's funny, they hit the hard-throwing starters, I feel like, better than somebody like Landon Roupp, who throws sinkers, tries to change speeds a little more. And you saw a lot of ground balls. You saw reaching for pitches that they haven't been doing here lately. You saw quick outs, something they had been much better at over the last several days. It does feel like we've mentioned this in both good and bad ways. It almost feels like 2 innings in, you have a sense, are they going to hit this guy or are they not going to hit him? Sometimes they hit him fantastic and they're scoring 7 runs in the first 2 innings. And sometimes they don't do anything and they don't figure it out along the way. And then it becomes a story of, can they just get to the bullpen at some point, keep the game close and try to come back and win? And they were in a position, it was scoreless going into the 7th, but then their own bullpen gave up the 4 runs, and they did nothing against San Francisco's bullpen late in this game.
Yeah, 3 Nats relievers in this game on Friday evening combined to allow 3 runs in 3 innings officially. Jackson Rutledge, who had been good, he officially allowed a run in 2/3 of an inning. He would ended up being that 2-run 7th for the Giants, completed the issuing of the walk of Matt Chapman, induced a 6-4-3 double play, but then gave up a 2-out RBI single by Willy Adames up the middle for a 1-0 Giants lead, and then issued 3 consecutive 2-out walks, including a 2-out bases-loaded walk of Patrick Bailey for a 2-0 Giants lead. Zach Brzykcy officially allowed 2 runs in 1 inning. He came into the game in that top of the 7th, bases loaded, 2 outs, Nats down 2-0. He induced a big out, a first pitch ground out by Tyler Fitzgerald for the 3rd out, but Brzykcy, in what ended up being a 2-run 8th for the Giants, gave up 3 consecutive 1-out singles, including a 1-out RBI single by Wilmer Flores to left field for a 3-0 Giants lead, and Brzykcy issued a 2-out hit by pitch of Casey Schmidt, and Andrew Chafin officially tossed 1 1/3 scoreless innings with 3 strikeouts, but he and the Giants' 2-run 8th issued a 2-out bases loaded run scoring wild pitch for a 4-0 Giants lead. So all 3 guys who appeared in this game in terms of Nats relievers, Rutledge, Brzykcy, and Chafin, each guy having some issues to varying degrees. And the Nats bullpen, which had been much better lately, struggling in this game.
So Rutledge, let's start with that. Obviously, it's a little bit of a tough spot to come in on the fly when Gore has to leave the game. Now, he had already started to warm up, so he wasn't coming in completely cold. He did get a double play, and so you thought, hey, you could get out of this whole thing, and then it fell apart. He was down on himself afterwards. He said that he felt like it was a case of him trying too hard to throw strikes, which is counterproductive. He felt like it's a mechanics thing that he can fix. He just couldn't do it in the moment and felt really bad about that. That was not good from a guy who's been overall pretty good since they made him into a reliever. Brzykcy, he hasn't had a lot of moments up here. It's still a 2-0 game when he comes in. Good on him for getting out of that bases loaded jam in the 7th, but to bring him back in the 8th to face the heart of their lineup, I get it. You're down 2. You don't want to burn all your top guys who have pitched a lot here lately during the winning streak, but that felt like maybe Davey wasn't being quite as aggressive with his bullpen usage as he could have been. And then Chafin, I know overall he is an improvement over Colin Poche, but he has had a bad knack for wild pitches. This is now 4 of them in 7 innings of work since he joined the team. And it was right off the bat, his very first pitch, and that brought in a run in this game. So that's something he does need to clean up as a veteran. Like, I get it, you're trying to get a swing and a miss right off the bat, but you got to put it somewhere that your catcher has a chance instead of hanging them out to dry like that. That could be costly here at some point.
No question. And as we are recording this, Nats relief pitchers for this regular season, number 1 in the majors in wild pitches at 22. Number 2, the Colorado Rockies at 15. I mean, think about that gap. We've talked about this with the bullpen. As bad as it has been, has not given up many home runs. That to me is such a wild reality with this bullpen. It has been overall terrible, but the giving up of home runs has not been an issue. It's been a lot of walks, a lot of hit by pitches, a lot of wild pitches, and we see that in this game once again. I'll say this about Nats pitching, and this goes back now over the last 2 years. Giving up home runs has not been an issue. This pitching staff as a whole has been a lot better over the last 2 seasons when it comes to not giving up home runs. That was such a problem going back to 2021, 2022, 2023, but 2024 and 2025, these guys, there are nits to pick in other regards for sure, but the giving up of the home run really is not an issue anymore.
It was their number 1 problem for several years. It has been fixed in a pretty significant way, and I do think that's where Sean Doolittle comes in, that some of the metrics and analytics that he brings to the table in being able to help these guys figure out individually what are the pitches that they were giving up the most damage on and how to avoid that, whether that's different pitch usage or location. I think that's been a major contribution that Sean Doolittle has made to the betterment of really the entire pitching staff. Let's see now if he and Jim Hickey together can work on the walks, because the relievers, walks and hit by pitches, as we've discussed, that's really what's killing them. When they throw strikes, they've been pretty effective. They're not giving up a lot of hits, and they certainly are not giving up a lot of extra base hits.
I mean, to put this into perspective, Nats relievers here, 24 hit by pitches, 22 wild pitches, 18 home runs. The bullpen has allowed more hit by pitches and more wild pitches than home runs. I mean, let that sink in. That is wild when you think about that. And yet that is the reality with this bullpen.
That's literally wild.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You would think a bullpen that is so bad in terms of finding the strike zone, finding the plate, would be giving up bombs. That has not been the problem. Maybe that's a function of being so wild, that the pitches have been so bad that they haven't been good enough to hit out of ballparks.
I don't know what to make of it. That is crazy. But I think it does show that they, it's okay to trust your stuff a little bit. Try to get it within the realm of the strike zone. See if you can get some weak contact, because most of these guys have decent enough stuff to do that. And, take a cue from a Cole Henry, who, as we've talked about, has been fantastic outside of one outing. He goes right after hitters. And yeah, he gets strikeouts, but he's not, throwing it all over the place. He's generally been around the strike zone, and maybe some of the more experienced guys can take a cue from a rookie who's looked quite good.
While we are talking Nationals relievers, two guys who are out, Orlando Revolta, Derek Law. Revolta on the 15-day injured list since April 13th, retroactive to April 10th due to a right bicep strain. Law on the 15-day IL since March 26th, retroactive to March 24th due to right forearm inflammation. Updates on those guys?
Revolta, it's a negative update. He's still not feeling as good as he wants to after a couple of simulated games. So they're going to back off some, give him some extra time off. So he's not about to go on a rehab assignment or anything like that. That's unfortunate. Derek Law, better news. He did finally throw off a bullpen mound for the first time in, I think, 2 months. It's 20 pitches, all fastballs, but everything felt good. They can start the ramp-up process again here. I think, as I mentioned a few episodes back, it's going to be a while. They understood finally, after trying to get him back and maybe rushing it, that they're better off taking this thing slow and almost treating it like spring training all over again. So, I think it's still at least another month, if not more than that, before we see Derek Law, but the signs at least are finally pointing in the right direction with him.
Game 2 for the Nats against the Giants at Nationals Park Saturday afternoon at 4:05. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. Hit us up on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the program, natschatpodcast@gmail.com, including if you would like to sponsor the show. Contact the man who runs the podcast, Tim Shovers. Again, that email address, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
No balls and a strike. Outside target, Chirinos, the pitch. Swinging a line drive, slice down the right field line toward the corner. Springer back, looking up, and this one is gone. It hits the foul pole, and the Nationals lead. Howie Kendrick has done it again. A slicing two-run homer off the right field foul pole. Do you believe it, Howie Kendrick? Part 2. Nationals 3 and the Astros 2. They are jumping up and down in the Nationals dugout, waiting to greet Howie Kendrick, as Howie Kendrick has provided his signature moment in the World Series.